Ladies and gents, boys and girls, pronouns of your choosing, welcome back to the Firefighters podcast. Today on the podcast, I'm joined by Alan Knell, community, corporate and events organizer for the Firefighters charity. Now, the Firefighters charity is so close to the heart of the podcast, and we're never more excited than when we get an opportunity to speak to somebody that's actually on the front line raising funds. But Alan's a pretty unique dude as well. We're going to talk about his military background, we're going to talk about breaking world records, and then we're going to go deep into the work of the Firefighters charity. And I think you'll be surprised at how far they've come. But firstly, it's so important to me and to the podcast that we acknowledge the partners that are joining us along this journey. Now, I'm no fool. You didn't tune in to hear about the partners and the sponsors of the podcast. But look, without them, we would not exist. They are so crucial to this journey. And we get multiple requests from different brands that see what we do, see the incredible guests we have on, and want to get involved. But it is out of respect for our guests and out of respect for you, the listener, that we only pick and work with brands that have true authenticity and something they can add value to your life. You only hear this at the beginning. It doesn't jump up any way through. I think it's so disrespectful when you hear adverts popping up in the middle of podcasts. It's so disrespectful to the listener. It's kind of like they've snuck it in there, snuck it up on you, and you weren't ready for it. So it's a few minutes of your time right here at the beginning. Let's see who the runners and riders are for today. Now, firstly, it's a really important shout out to our partner, William Wood Watches. Johnny's support, Johnny's informal coaching, sharing the wins, sharing his own journey, sharing the journey of his grandfather, and the journey of the brand, William Wood Watches. Now, coming on board with the Firefighters podcast is not something they had to do. William Wood Watches is featured in GQ magazine, The Times, Esquire, Forbes, and now they've made it to the dizzying heights of the Firefighters podcast. Let's get some realism. The reason it's so important to me, and I know it's so important to the brand, that they're aligned with the podcast is because it's about authenticity. So look, I would suggest go over to their Instagram, go over to their website for your own benefit. But if not for that, do it as a favor to me, do it as a favor to the podcast. We wouldn't be gaining the momentum that we are without the commitment and support of this incredible brand. I was already an admirer and a fan of William Wood Watches long before the existence of the podcast. The company was founded in 2016 with the vision to create beautifully crafted British luxury watches from upcycled firefighting equipment. And they've got so many incredible designs, from the Valiant collection to the Bronze Sapphire to the Triumph to the Chivalrous. The detail that goes into making these watches is so incredible. Even so far as that the London Fire Brigade helmet is actually melted down into the crown of the watch. But for me, above all of that, and the thing that gets the most mentions of my watch, is the strap. It's fire hose strap. I know it's something they're so proud of. The straps are cast off Angus Duraline British fire hose rubber. You see them in the red, the yellow, I think there's the blue there now. There's just so much thought's gone into this. They are the longest serving partner of the podcast, and they hold a very special place in my heart. Not only because I love the watch, not only because it gets a lot of mentions, but because I've seen this company evolve, and I know Johnny and the team are going to go all the way. So whether it's a retirement gift, whether it's a birthday gift, whether it's a gift to yourself, congratulations on a challenge, on a project, on a promotion, get over to williamwoodwatches.com and check out some of their incredible timepieces. And there you have it, folks. That's the names and the frames for today's episode. So without further ado, buckle up for safety, and I will see you crazy cats on the other side. Alan Knell, welcome to the Firefighter podcast. How you doing, brother?
Yeah, I'm very good. Thank you so much for having me along. It's a privilege to be here. Really appreciate it.
Immediately, man, I'm head over heels in love with the accent. I know we've spoken. I know we've spoken before today, and I've really loved getting to know a little bit more about the Firefighters charity. But then when I got introduced to you, they were like, "Oh man, you want to get Al on? He's a wonderful demonstration of the sort of values and the ethics of the charity." So I'm just gonna overwhelm you with some compliments to start with. But then when I heard we'd got the accent and the military background and all this sort of stuff, I was like, oh my God, it was like a triple hitter. It's like I was getting jab, jab, cross. It was what was going on right there. So give us a little bit about yourself, your sort of background, and how you've come to be involved in the Firefighters charity, brother.
Yeah, it's, born and raised on Merseyside, the other side of the water, though. I'm from Birkenhead.
Doesn't make you a bad person, though. Doesn't make you a bad person. It's okay.
Well, no, I'm born and raised there, and in my younger years, I didn't particularly do that well at school, and I ended up joining the Navy at 18, and I did 9 years in the Royal Navy on minesweepers.
9 years?
Yeah, 9 years.
Why did you choose the Navy?
Mainly because my granddad was an ex-chief petty officer, and I used to hear his stories of dare and do and the war and stuff like that. And I just always had a feeling. I think living on the coast and a naval city and in terms of the shipping and all that kind of stuff. So it just kind of just appealed to me to go and fly the nest and join the Navy. So
is it the same as it always used to be in terms of join the Navy, travel the world? That's what they always used to say.
Well, I'll be honest, I did 9 years and the furthest I got was Turkey. So I went further on my honeymoon, but it was no, it was. I was only on the small ships at the time, so I did three years based in Northern Ireland, and then just floating around the Mediterranean and the Baltics and stuff like that. So little ships tend not to go that far until it all kicked off in the Middle East anyway. But
how long did you tend to be out at sea for? Sorry to go off on a bit of a tangent, but I think it was fascinating because it's all, you all see it as the military, the Navy, it's sort of in the same thing. But I think of the Navy as an incredibly isolated role in terms of time away from your family, because when people are training on bases and stuff like that, they tend to be able to live with their families and stuff like that. How long did you used to spend out on sort of on rig, on ship?
On deployment, about 4 to 6 months.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So yeah, we literally just disappear. So interesting story was I met my wife on a night out in Liverpool. I had one date with her, and then I disappeared for 6 months. But we kept in touch. And
first time you met her, were you that guy a little bit like Firefighters do? He'd be like, "I'm shipping out in a couple of days, babe. So I don't want to put you under any false pretenses." Were you that guy? Come on, I'd be that guy. I'll be honest.
Yeah, I was that guy, but she quickly worked me out that I was just a fraud. And
were you wearing a Navy t-shirt inappropriately in any bar that you went in? Were you that guy?
No, definitely not that guy who wears Navy t-shirts out and about. No.
That must have been surreal though, and I suppose going in at such an early age, you must have not necessarily missed out, but you would have had a very different sort of development, sort of growing up. What was it like growing up in the Navy, going in as a young 17-year-old lad?
It was a baptism of fire.
Okay.
It was a complete culture change of looking after yourself. Really, I mean, like proper looking after yourself. Like but this is before mobile phones were just coming out, so like you were totally detached from your family, other than letters and stuff like that, and you grow up quickly. A lot of drinking. It was a very culture of we go out, we play hard, we work hard, play hard, all that kind of stuff. And no, it was good, but it was to be honest, it was the making of me in terms of I was a very shy young lad when I left school and college, and didn't really have any particular direction of where I wanted to go. But it gave me the confidence, and I think that stands me in good stead of where I am now in terms of I'm quite confident standing up in front of 100 people and talking, and that's instilled into you in the Navy. Of you've got to be a leader, you've got to take charge and face difficult situations, but then learn how to deal with people from all different parts of the country, different backgrounds, and just be a good people person. So
was there something about looking after? You said there about like a whole different way of sort of looking after yourself as well, because you live in such small quarters, I imagine. So the old idea of like squaring yourself away and not just being a ragtag bunch where you've got your own place where you can go. What were the living quarters like? I bet it was quite small.
Oh, really small, yes. Especially on the small ships, we only had a crew of about 40 people.
Really?
But it was, I'd say, in the junior rates mess where I slept and stuff like that. You have your own little bunk and a little cupboard, and that's it. That's your world. That's your only space. And you've got like 20 lads living in quite a small space. And I can tell you, after a weekend in Amsterdam, it's not a nice place to be living, because it just stinks and there's clothes everywhere, and it's just, it's just.
But like you say about personal hygiene and stuff like that, I bet people aren't too shy about holding you accountable pretty fast as soon as your standards start to slip.
Oh, absolutely, yeah, and people let you know and drag your bed out on the back end of the ship and stuff like that. So
and you come in at the end of the day and you're like, "Where's all my stuff?" And they're like, "Did you stink? You're an animal. We've told you twice. I'm going to knock you out, but I've just dragged it outside. Sort yourself out." No,
absolutely. But you know what? It was an amazing time. I absolutely loved the Navy, but it was just it was definitely, I was like a young single laddish, but then once you start getting a mortgage and bills and real life starts taking over, it was a bit like the wife was like, "You're having too much fun here, so let's
no
if you
way."
Want kids. It's just like, but it's like if you want kids, and we come to that crossroad. I've got 3 boys now, but it was kind of like, do I want to be that dad who's away from home for 6 months and not see them? But when you're home, like my wife would never move to a married quarter, so it was, do I want to be that dad who only sees my kids at the weekends half a year? And it wasn't for me. So, despite doing pretty well in the Navy, I thought, do you know what, I was only 26, 27 at the time, so I thought, do you know what, I'll reset the button, and while I'm still young, I can retrain and go do something else. So that's why.
That must have been a massive, massive switch, though, because like you say, you still enjoyed it, but it was it's that work-life balance. It's trying to strike it. I think the eternal battle. I mean, I'm lucky that I get to see my kids pretty much every day, but I'm working. I'm working every goddamn day, and I love it. And sometimes you feel a bit guilty for doing the thing that you love, because you love the Navy. You know, you were out there enjoying doing what you're doing, climbing. What was your sort of progress like? You say you did quite well in it.
Yeah, so got promoted up to leading hand. What's kind of not a senior rate, but so I suppose in terms of like a fire service equivalent, like a crew manager or something like that. And then the next step was petty officer. So I moved up to senior rate, and kind of when I put my notice in, so you have to give a year's notice in the armed forces. Well, you did when I was there anyway. A year's notice you have to put in, because they hope in that time you get cold feet and you change your mind and you retract it.
You start looking out there at the prospects and you're like, oh god, it's slim pickings.
Oh yeah, it's a scary world, and I've got a sustainable income, but it's a scary thing to leave, but just had to go and do it at that point really on that one. It just,
yeah, man, I admire you for that. Takes this is the kind of thing where I think now our generations, you can live 3 or 4 lifetimes in one, because I mean 9 years is a career for many people, and you're one of those rare few that got that in early, and how old are you now?
I'm 41 now.
41
and
can you even remember? Obviously you can remember back, but does it feel like a whole lifetime ago?
It feels like a totally different chapter in my life. It's funny because I don't really drink that much anymore. I'm not particularly like go out and party. Well, I like to party and I like to drink and stuff like that, but I think because I did it so hard when I was young, because there is a big culture in the Navy, and when we went at sea, all the lads would go to Ibiza.
Really?
So it was just like one big party all the time. But I think it's definitely like, in terms of when I got to the end of that road of that 9 years, I was like, right, let's do what I've done all that now.
Yeah.
And I'm happy to move on to the next bit in my life in terms of getting a house and getting settled down. Well, in fact, to be honest, I bought my house when I was 23. So,
nice.
because there was a lot of grumpy old chief petty officers who went, don't blow all your money on alcohol and partying, just buy bricks and mortar. That's the only advice. And I did. Back in the days, you get 100% mortgages, happy days. And and you know, I've been a homeowner since 23, so it's in the long term, that's really helped me, and listening to the advice of the older guys there as well would really help me out for the rest of my life, because otherwise I'd have just wasted it, if I'm honest.
Yeah,
being young, and
I'm the same. I was a real addict, and I still am really in many ways, but it took me a long time to learn that addictive personality isn't always a bad thing. But I kind of got a lot of that drinking and drugs out of my system really, really young, and I found it difficult to continue to embrace the idea of being passionate and dedicated to something, and not allowing that to sort of tempt me into a bad behavior. I mean, like the reason I mention it is you were very passionate at what you did. You know, you were big out with the lads all the time. Trying to separate yourself from that and still find purpose in being a really driven, really passionate guy must have been a real challenge. What sort of things did you start thinking about when you and the missus were like, well, I'm gonna do it, I give him my year's notice? How did the conversation work from there? What was she doing, and what did you even what do you think you could do from there?
Yeah, do you know what? It was a scary time, really. I mean, I look back at it and thinking, what was I thinking?
Really?
Cause
looking back at it now, when you've got the kids screaming at you in the afternoon, you're like, what am I doing? I could be in Ibiza now with the lads.
yeah, it's just, but at the time, because you do get paid well in the forces, or I certainly thought I did anyway. Some might not agree with that, but in terms of, you've got a mortgage, you've got bills, but every month that money's falling into your pocket. If you go to sea, you get paid more. So, and to then think, I'm going to stop that, and I'm going to retrain to do something totally else, but having no idea what I wanted to do when I left.
No idea.
The problem I had, no, not really. I mean, I had a friend who'd left a couple of months before me, and they went into refrigeration engineer, and I thought, sounds all right, I'll do that.
Fair enough.
So And then I booked onto the courses, and then I basically got stitched up really. Like there was a gap on a ship, and they went, right, you're going to go there, cancel your courses. So the Navy did see me off a little bit there in terms of I missed that opportunity to retrain. So I actually came to the end of my service, and I hadn't, other than a CV writing course, I walked into Civvy Street with nothing.
Oh mate, that was a bit scary.
And
did you have any kids on the way?
Yeah, not at that point. No, I mean that was the point to leave the Navy and start a family, and that was the point. But and luckily enough, it all worked out really well for me. But it was, if I give me advice again to anyone who's leaving the armed forces or any career really, in the fire services, start retraining for the day you walk through the door.
Yeah.
In terms of take every course you can, get every qualification you can out of that job. If they're willing to pay for you to do a course, take it, because it opens up so many different doors everywhere else. So, yeah,
mate, I think people in the fire service have actually got it. I mean, I love it. Obviously, I love it, hence the bloody podcast. But I think we've got it really good because, yes, okay, we don't get the travel of, say, the Navy, but you'll know, and I imagine, I'm not going to put words in your mouth, but you'll know better than anybody else. I mean, you said you did limited travel in the Navy anyway, but even when you're out there and, you're on the bloody high seas, and I sound like a dick saying that, I don't know anything about it, but you're not seeing the world. You're on a boat, you're on a rig, you're working. Yeah, okay, the sunrise or sunset might be different every day, but the pay is very similar in my limited interpretation as to a lot of other emergency services, based on where you live in the economy. And I think people should perhaps get paid a little bit more in the EMAS and also police and fire ambulance, stuff like that. Yeah. But here in the fire service, if you live anywhere really all over the world, you've got days off, and people do a lot of second incomes anyway. They're already training for other things, and they're very, very competent. We have lots of people. We have writers, we have electricians, we have builders, plasterers, a lot of manual labor stuff, but some people run successful businesses online, influencers, all this sort of stuff. So you've kind of got the best of both worlds. And, hearing you speak about wanting to retrain or having to try and retrain for something else and then coming out and having nothing is a scary aspect. But I know people that are sometimes unhappy in the fire service, yet they've got a good qualification. But it's kind of like, I use the analogy of a dog sitting on a nail. The old story where you go up to a guy's porch and he's sat there and his dog's sort of groaning. And he's like, dude, what's up with your dog? And he's like, oh, he's sitting on a nail. And he goes, well, why didn't he move? And he goes, well, it's too much effort to move, isn't it? They're kind of living in that place sometimes. And this is a very small number of people in the fire service, but people that claim they don't enjoy the job, it's not uncomfortable enough for them to leave because they know they're going to have to go out into the real world, and they know they're on a great number, really. They know they get enjoyment to it, they spend their day with their friends, and they're able to do something that makes a difference with people almost every day. Yeah, almost a comfort zone. It's a comfy place to be. It is. Yeah, in some respect, That can be dangerous as well sometimes, though. Absolutely, it can. When you came out and you realised you didn't have any necessarily marketable skills, that must have been a scary place to be at sort of 27, 28 years of age. Where did your life take you then? Yeah, so I applied for a job, a company called Cotswold Group, based head office in Gloucester, and basically it was doing following insurance cheats, basically. Okay. And so it's basically doing surveillance, and there was a lot of ex-squaddies and ex-Marines and all that kind of stuff, and then you kind of got this sailor that just kind of fell into it. And it was basically people with claims for insurance and that, and we just watch them get to their house in the morning and follow them and record them. Absolutely hated it. It just wasn't for me. But in the background, and this is where the charity journey started for me, in terms of I really missed the forces when I left. I did struggle, not like really struggle, but I really missed it in terms of being that part of the camaraderie, part of a group, and I missed it. So I thought I need something to kind of fill my days here a little bit, and give something. So I went onto it was coming up to the poppy field. I went on their website and I just volunteered to basically sell poppies. So I thought I could give a couple of days, sell a couple of poppies, and I'll give something back. So, good man. But then the coordinator for my local area where I live now, down in Cheshire, said, well, look, there's a local town who've got no poppy appeal coordinator. Would you mind filling in? So I went, okay, but okay, I'll do it. And it was one of the hardest jobs I've ever had. It was so hard. I think when you see the poppy tins sitting on tills and stuff,
you don't appreciate how much effort it is to get them poppy pins on.
There's a whole
the
infrastructure and organisation that goes behind that, and even also the GDPR and the logistics and how does the money handled and where does it go. It's a minefield for some people. I think it's hard for charities to operate in the new age. But go on, sorry.
Yeah. So I did that, and I raised, I think, one of the best amounts I'd ever raised, and I thought, wow, I quite like this stuff. And then basically what happened, me grandfather, who was the ex-Navy guy, he passed away, and he left me some money as well. I thought, wouldn't it be nice to do something to help other people with that money? So I signed up for Chester Marathon. Never done a marathon before, never even run. Half a marathon. I just thought, I'll go for it. Deep end, let's go for it.
Yeah, baby.
And then I thought I'd like to help another charity. So I found a charity called Scotty's Little Soldiers, who help kids if they've lost parents in the armed forces. And then by this time, I'm a dad myself, so I thought, wouldn't it be nice to help? And it was a relatively very, very new charity, about a year old, and it was after Corporal Lee Scott was killed in Afghanistan and left his little daughter and son behind. And I thought, being a dad, wouldn't it be nice to know that there's a support network for your kids and your partner as well? So, and that's where it started. I ran a marathon. And then it quickly escalated into doing some mental fundraising ideas from there, really. So
what did you get up to? What did you do?
Oh, well, yeah. I mean, in that time as well, I had a friend that I played five-a-side. Well, I tried to anyway. I'm not very successful at it. But I had a friend who, we'd known him from about 15 years old. I think he just turned 19. He signed up for the army and he went to Afghanistan. Yeah. And the last time I saw him was playing five-a-side. And you look after yourself when you're out there. And he said, I've got to, mate. I've got a baby on the way. I said, oh, congratulations. So I think that was the last time we saw Dan. He was killed after 21 days. His armoured vehicle was, they went over a Russian mine. I think about 6 lads were killed instantly, basically. And that kind of put a real fire in my belly then to think, well, no, he's never even met his daughter. Yeah. I'm going to really kick on and do this now. So I by chance, via social media, I linked up with a sergeant in the Royal Welsh, a guy called Dave Allison. He's still in the army now in the Royal Welsh. Yeah. And he just has lost his friend in Afghanistan as well, who had a little daughter called Millie, who lived in Coventry. And I said, well, let's do some stuff together, mate. And he was like, all right, then let's go. So, him being a Welsh boy, we decided to go for the longest game of rugby union ever played. Wow. What was about 28 hours, I think we played for. What would have been a new world record. We beat that. We basically played that at Leicester Tigers ground. They gave us a stadium for 2 days. We raised £66,000. And
how long ago was this?
Oh, do you know what? It's coming up to 9 years. 9 years we did this.
I'm not sure. I didn't have a few mates from the East Midlands come and do that with you.
You probably did, yeah. We had players from all around the country. It was basically the armed forces, the Scottish Little Soldiers team. And we had, it just escalated so quick. We had the Red Devil skydivers from the Paras. They skydived into the stadium.
Oh, mate.
With the match ball. And
that's wicked.
We had all the kids, a lot of the Scottish kids who'd lost parents in the armed forces. We bought them all replica shirts to match the players. All the players had the kids' names on the back of the shirt, so they'd have one or two of the kids on the back of the shirts to play for a kid as well. So, we had the military.
But again, though, you talk about organisation. That people forget how much this takes. Do you know what I mean? Because especially everybody's doing it for free. It's just like you can sit around a table and talk about ideas. There's like 150 hours behind each sentence, if that makes sense. You know, somebody says, "Hey, we should get matching things and you know put the kids' names on the back," and you go, "Great, I love it." Who's going to do that? Who's going to put their hand up? Do you know? And that's not me being a pessimist. I've done a load of fundraising stuff, and it'll not always. It's a pessimistic thing to say. It tends to be the same old faces turning up 3 days before and going, right, we need to get our fingers out of our bum because nobody's done anything about this thing, and we need to crack on with it. But it sounds like you had an awesome turnout for it. Yeah, I mean,
logistically, it was a hard event to do because I'm working full time, so I'm not getting in till 6 o'clock at night, and then I'm seeing the kids, putting the kids to bed, and then my second job. It's basically a second job you're taking on. So I'm working till like 1 o'clock every night to get ready for this event. But I mean that event, not only did we raise a ton of money for Scotties, but it was absolutely amazing. But that was a very big moment in my life in terms of it gave me the confidence to think, do you know what? Yeah, I really fancy doing this.
Yeah. I'm good at this. I enjoy it.
Yeah, I absolutely lived and breathed that event, and the friendships and the bonds we've got from that game, like we are still now like the best mates in the world.
It's really addictive, isn't it? I've done stuff with a few people, big physical challenges or stuff like that, and even if it's just like once every 6 months, you just drop each other a message or you send each other some sort of savage thing that you're doing, and you know that nobody else will quite understand it, but you just go, hey mate, I was up there this weekend, or I've just been doing this, or I've just been doing that. Hope you're well, hope the family's well. And it's something awesome that when you've done stuff like that, big going through the night challenges or, real endurance stuff, it does create a really weird bond. And I feel for people that never really push themselves to do that because they'll never understand it, I don't think.
It's to know what empty is. Like we did another event where we walked from Liverpool to Coventry in 3 days. That's about 150 miles on foot. Wow. And God, I was so tired. Like to the point where I thought I can't go on. I was literally at the sign saying Coventry. So, and I was just like, I am so tired. My feet are falling off. I'm so tired. But you know what? There's something else in you where you think, no, you're going to keep going. And
do you ever try and play tricks on yourself? I do that whenever I'm doing really, really long, hard stuff. I'll try and distract my mind and tell it something else, and I'll try and give it a bit of a trick, So, well, I'll tell you what, let's just go to that tree, and then we'll sort of give somebody a ring and come and get picked up or something. And then by the time you get to the tree, you'll go, well, we'll just go there, or we'll just, I've got some food, actually, let me just, and I'll keep walking while I get some food out of my bag or something like that. And before you know it, you've covered another 3 miles. And then you're like, well, I'll tell you what, let me just listen to some music. And then I'll tell you what, let me just listen to a bit of audiobook. I'll tell you what, let me give the missus a ring. And then before you know it, you just keep playing tricks on yourself, and the body will keep going. It's the mind that's the problem.
Yeah, I personally found breaking it down into manageable amounts. So if you think I ran London Marathon for the Firefighters charity, and God, the last mile was a killer. But then it counts down. What I found even harder, it was 800 yards to go, 700, but it was like, oh my God, I'm knackered. So I just think, well, 100 yards, that's just the end of my road. Yeah. So I could do that. And then just go, right, another 100 yards. Okay, well, that's not far. That's just, and then it also almost replicates that same part of the journey, but in relation to where places I know already. That's my little weird thing that I did. So I found that really helped me.
I used to do really morbid stuff, right? And people might hear this, and I might lose some listeners with this one, right? But when I used to do hill sprints, and I still do them sometimes now, I would get into the 10th or 12th one. I'd walk down a massive hill, sprint back up, and then when I was really, really knackered, I would say to myself, oh, I'm really knackered. But I said, you know what? If there was somebody at the top of there in a van and they'd just grabbed my daughter, and I know it sounds really weird, but if they'd just grabbed my daughter and she's kicking and screaming and they're trying to get her in the van, what's the chances I would absolutely bolt it up there and just rip the door off the van? I would do it. You would just do it. Yeah. So I literally try, and I have this when I'm in the gym as well, when I'm trying to pick something up that I know I can do, like a deadlift or whatever, but I'm not quite in the mood or I don't quite feel it. I literally say to myself, I put myself in an RTC mindset. I go, imagine the caravan has just fallen on the missus and she's screaming and she's shouting. What's the chances you'd be able to lift it up? And bang, I'll do it. It's just playing those tricks on your mind. Do you know what I mean? You can do it. Yeah. And I literally, in my mind, I try and make it so, she's shouting babe, please pick it up, please, it really hurts. And then you'll just do it. And I know people might think they're like, oh, what a load of rubbish. What is that? But it works. It really does work.
Yeah. I've definitely found that the human body and mind is a phenomenal thing. It does way more than I think we think it's capable of. And it's pushing through them barriers.
We just give it options too much. I always think of it like a long corridor full of doors. Like in one of the Matrix films where they look down that corridor and there's doors on either side. Yeah. You just keep walking down there, and your mind will go, oh, let's just leave here. And it will look to go out that door. But you've got to tell yourself, that door's locked. That door's, or just keep going. And then by the time you've passed it a little bit, you can't reach back and get the door handle. So you've got to keep going, and you've got to keep going. And it's constantly going to want to just slip off into a door and stop. Slip off into a door and finish. And you've got to keep going down there. You've got to keep going down there and telling yourselves, I've only got one key and it fits the door at the end. That's what I'm going for. Stop distracting yourself. Stop messing about, checking all the other flipping doors. Just keep going and go all the way to the bottom. Get it done.
Absolutely. Yeah, it's just being focused and driven on where you need to be,
100%.
Where you need to get.
So you'd started this real appetite for raising money. I mean, you spoke about the rugby game there, starting doing some marathons. You got an appetite for it. How did this then manifest into contacting the Firefighters charity?
Yeah, so the day job, if you like, working for surveillance, and then I was doing some stuff in state road accidents.
Yeah.
I actually got made redundant for my day job, in essence. And
mate, a dude in surveillance, you should have seen that coming, surely. Dad jokes. Sorry, dad jokes. Go on. I apologise. You made redundant, which is never nice. Never nice.
No, but you know what? At the moment, and certainly then, when you've got kids and you've got the mortgage, it's the most daunting thing, and you're like, oh my god. But everyone's when you get made redundant, everyone goes, I got made redundant. Best thing that ever happened to me, and you're going, that ain't helping me at the moment. Like I've got to pay the bill more. But fully enough,
can't take your optimism to the bank, unfortunately. As optimistic as I am, behind that is a savage work ethic. Yeah,
but I'm not one of them people going, oh, it's one of the best things that's ever happened to me, because it was, because again, that comfort zone, I was kind of sitting in that comfort zone where the money's coming in, don't particularly like the job, but I can manage it, and it's okay and stuff, and it's quite flexible for family life. But I was made redundant, and I thought, right, okay, so similar to when I left the Navy, I'm at another crossroads in my life. I'm still like relatively young. I think I'm like early 30s-ish now, so mid-30s. So, and I thought, right, charity sector is where I want to be. Like, this is, I love doing it. It's where I excel, or event management or something like that. So, and I started applying for a couple of jobs, and then the Firefighters charity popped up, and I was like, oh my god! And you only read the job description and go, that's me. And that is just what I need to be going to do. And I was like, God, I hope they get this one. So went for an interview. It was up at Bolton Fire Station in Greater Manchester, actually. Oh, really? And I gave an interview, and you know when you've done yourself proud, and you think, well, that couldn't have gone. You walk out and you're like, mate,
I nailed that. Absolutely, absolutely.
And then later that day, they're like, we'd love to take you on at the Firefighters charity. That was 7 years ago now, and loved every minute at the Firefighters.
So what was the role? You know, you say you loved the description of it. What I mean, do you still do the same job now, or have you moved in the sort of structure of the organisation? What was the job?
So it's basically supporting volunteers and putting events on and promoting the charity services. And I was like, well, yeah, that's what I love doing. And to be honest, that's what I still do now. Things have ebbed and changed a little bit, where I do a bit more corporate fundraising and stuff like that now. But it's still at core. It's going around fire stations, chatting to people and having a great time, and meeting people and improving things for the fire service family. Basically, in terms of, I feel like I play a really important part of making sure that people are okay. It's funny. It sounds like corny, but
no, mate. I'm all about corny on the podcast. Rewarding. Yeah, it's what it's all about.
Yeah, so I absolutely love it.
It's a shame when you say corny, and I know you're not saying it with intentionally, but it's a shame that we as I think it's a cultural thing. I think it's a Western, I don't know, Western world. I think it's a UK. I think it's a British culture thing, where we feel a bit ashamed about being passionate about stuff. I'm so romantic about the work that I do. You know, whether it's the fire service, whether it's helping people get fitter and healthier and all that sort of stuff, or whether it's the podcast. People are like, what do you talk about? I just talk about the job. Love it. You know, I talk to divers, I talk to charities, I talk to people that climb buildings, I talk to people that go down mines rescue, I speak to police officers, military, army, Marines, and I'm like, I love it. I just love being, I feel like a kid. Do you know what I mean? I'm just that naive, asking the obvious questions and just learning. I mean, even in a selfish way, from a professional development perspective, I just learn so much. Just, you get to be that eternal student. And some people, I don't know why. Why do you think we're like that now? Why do you think people feel like it's not okay to love the job now? It's not okay to get passionate. Is it uncool, or am I just hearing that?
Yeah, I don't know. It's a good question. I don't know. It's just like, I think sometimes I think, am I going on about this too much? Like, like social media and stuff like that is like, am I burning everyone out here? Because I'm so passionate about it, but people might not be so passionate about it as me. And it's I guess it's one of them. It's like, I don't want to ram it down people's throats how much I love my job, but if they might be in a job where they're just like, I just get to the end of the day.
Yeah, mate, but at the end of the day, that is a choice. That is a choice. And I'm not, I don't say that, wanting to make anybody feel bad, but, we do live in a time when if you don't enjoy what you do, you haven't got to do it. You haven't got to do it. We don't, we're not in mandatory service, and I appreciate some slavery still exists in and around the world, but for the vast majority, certainly in the people that perhaps listening to this, we don't experience that, and for all intents and purposes, you could stop doing what you're doing today And there's so many things you can do. You know, when we were kids, it was, military, factory worker, whatever, accountant, teacher. You know, we felt like options were more limited. But now, crikey, there's so many things you can do. But I think that in itself presents a problem because some people struggle with choice. You know, like when you sit down to watch a movie, if there's only 10 movies, then you'll pick quite quickly. But if there's 1,000 movies to pick from, an hour later, you haven't picked one yet. When you say to people now, what are you excited about? What do you enjoy doing? It sounds overwhelming. It's a scary question, not just for kids. I know people in the 30s, 40s, 50s that still don't know what they want to do when they grow up, and I don't. I'm doing this here. I'm doing this now. I'm passionate about it. But if that changes, then I'll go and do something else tomorrow. Yeah,
it's funny. It's like I'm having the same conversations with my 13-year-old lad now, where he's coming up to his options at school, and I was like, "Well, what are you going to pick?" He's like, "I don't know." I go, "What do you want to do when you grow up?" He's like, "I don't know." Yeah. And I'm like, "Well, what do you love doing?" "Well, I love sports, don't I?" I'm going, "Well, if you're not going to be a professional athlete or anything like that, well, what about sports science? Physio, where you can still be in that world, that bubble. You can still get in the team coach and go to games and be part of the team." And he's like, "Oh yeah, that sounds good. Yeah, it's good money."
But it's really good money.
But I'm trying to point my kids in a direction of where I didn't have a clue. I literally finished school, I walked out with my results, and I was like, I have no idea what I'm doing now. Yeah. I'm trying to get them to now see, what do you love doing? What's your passion? Try and get there. And funny enough, I've mentioned the charity world, and it's funny because not that people come into the charity sector a little bit later. Generally, it's like people have lived a little bit and they've got into 30s and start thinking about their importance in the world and putting something back into it. And And as a youngster, like personally, in my early 20s, I never really thought about charity, if I'm honest. But as you grow up and you see the importance of family and your kids and looking after your fellow man and woman and stuff like that, it's a funny industry. But I said that to the kids, but they just don't see it as cool because I do it. So it's
that's the thing, man. I do lots of things that. I mean, I obviously think are cool, and some people that I work with sometimes think they're cool. But you say it to your kids, even when your kids talk about like YouTube or something like that, and I'm like, well, I run a YouTube channel. We've got 30,000 views and stuff like that, and they're like, yeah, but not really. I'm like, well, it is. I've not watched it 30,000 times, that's for sure. These are people in 60 plus countries or whatever. But there's something about even just like general health and fitness. You talk to your kids about being fit and healthy, and you say, you don't want to be like, don't want to get to 30s, 40s, 50s, and things have slipped off. And but they forget that you're maybe trying something different than other. I stand in the playground sometimes, and I'm encouraging my friends and like other parents. I'm like, let's go and do something. Let's get a bit fitter. Let's get a bit healthier. And kids forget. They don't, and that's okay. We were the same at our time. My dad did some awesome stuff when I was younger, and I know I rebelled against it.
It's but as the kids get older, then they come back in and they go, actually, you're bang on. Yeah. It's stories my dad tells me. Like I was like, no, Dad, you were wrong, and then I get to like mid-20s and going, oh, actually, Dad, you're spot on. I'll do the same as what you did to me. So
I do so much stuff that my dad used to do. I didn't think was cool. I do loads of charity stuff now, and I think back, and my dad used to do 24-hour field hockey stuff. He used to arrange all sorts of stuff, and he ran a company locally. It was a building firm, and he used to use all of his resources so much for free. He used to go and support people events, build stuff for them, and you look back now and you think, wow, they really did put it out there. Is there something about when you said people come into the sort of charity game a little bit later on in life? That does have a lot of strengths, though, I suppose, because I'm desperately thinking about getting more involved. I work with 3 charities now, but more as a supporter, promoter, helping them tell their stories, that sort of stuff. But I really want to do a lot more in this sector and really commit, maybe even to the Firefighters charity. Hopefully, it aligns a lot with what we do. But is there something about the authenticity with having that little bit of life experience when people come in? They can talk from a position of experience, I suppose.
Yeah, I guess in terms of the people who are in the charity sector, so something's probably happened in their life where they thought, oh, right, okay, so there might be someone poorly in their family or something's affected them, or they care about the environment or animal welfare, and something's struck a chord in them at some point in their life, and they've gone, I'm going to do something about this. So they've started fundraising, and that's how it's happened. And they start fundraising, go, I absolutely love this. This is amazing, because you're working with lovely people. You're seeing how you're affecting, you're making lives better for other people. Yeah. You get a taste for it, and once you get a taste for it, probably like yourself, you just want a bit more.
It's really, really addictive.
It really is. And but it takes sometimes something tragic in someone's life to help them find that feeling.
I often say to people, your superpower often sits quite close to a scar. Do you know what I mean? Your strengths and your scars, if you look close enough, they're usually very, very aligned. You know, what people value the most comes from some place that they've had a void at some point in their life. They've missed out on the closeness. They've missed out on trust. Therefore, they value trust more than anything. They've missed out on having somebody care for them. They've missed out on somebody looking after their family or an elderly relative, and they don't ever want to have that void again. So it's one of their highest values. Yeah,
absolutely. I couldn't agree more. It some takes a tragedy to make something good happen, if that makes sense. And
no, absolutely.
And go back to Corporal Lee Scott with Scottish Little Soldiers, where Christ, that poor family, had a terrible time, and not only having to lose the dad, they then have to leave married quarters and go with their own, make their way in the world without him and stuff like that. But and it was his wife Nikki Scott, who's an amazing lady, like she's phenomenal, but sat and looked at her kids not smiling, and then went on holiday and they started smiling. I thought, well, how many other kids are like this? And then a charity's born from that, and now there's so many, like hundreds and hundreds of kids supported by this charity, and I think it's just Nikki would never have done that unless Lee was killed, really. But I just think it's amazing what people can do when they've got fire in their belly and passion. They can make so much happen for good. So totally, it's really good. Mate.
So you've done sort of 7 years with the Firefighters charity now, but I wanted to stretch back, as I'm sure you've learned more and more about it. How did the Firefighters charity first start?
So it started back in Second World War during the Blitz. Well, I'm not good at numbers, but it's coming up to our 80th birthday soon. So nearly 80 years now. And I'm a bit of a history buff. I love knowing World War II history and stuff like that anyway. So it's basically followed off supporting families of bereaved firefighters during the Blitz raids and stuff like that. And I know up here in Liverpool that the German bombers used to drop the bombs, turn around, and then fly low over the city and try and shoot firefighters off the ladders.
Jesus.
Yeah, and there's some buildings in Liverpool, like the old John Lewis building, that's actually got bullet holes in the walls of where they were shooting at firefighters.
Wow. It makes sense. You don't want to drop a bomb just for somebody to put the fire out, do you?
And then it's evolved from over the years in terms of where it is now. It's at the core, although we changed name from the Fire Service Benevolent Fund to the Firefighters Charity a few years back. But it's at the core, it's still there for that not just the firefighters, but also fire patrol, anyone who works in the fire and rescue service, but also their families as well, to support as best we can.
I do want to ask you that, because I think one of the biggest things people forget is that the support is not just for the firefighters. You do a lot for families and stuff like that. And I know you've got places where people can go and get this support. So for anybody that is unfamiliar with it, what sort of people can benefit from the help of the Firefighters Charity?
So as long as you've served 5 years in the fire service, you are then a lifetime beneficiary to the charity.
Well, even after you retire?
Yeah. It's there to your last day, honest to God. And I think, wow, what a thing to have in your back pocket in terms of today, everything, hopefully for everyone who's listening to this as well, everything's hunky and dory and stuff like that. But one day, bam, life just has a way of throwing things at you. It might be tomorrow, it might be when you're 95 years old, you don't know. But it's to have a support network in your back pocket. So yeah, as long as you've done 5 years or 2 years if you've been and you get made redundant, it's a little bit different on that. But as long as you do that 5 year service, you're covered the rest of your life. And that is if you've been employed by the Fire and Rescue Service for 5 years. So you might have worked in occupational health. You might have worked in fire prevention, fire control.
Yeah, so even if like on call or retained in those sectors, exactly the same.
Retained, yeah, absolutely. So you get that beneficiary. Also, your partner, you don't have to be married, which that's, you've lived together a reasonable amount of time and you just have met at a nightclub at the weekend or something like that, but it's just like, come here, I'll fix that knee for you.
Absolutely.
You look like you're hobbling a bit, but no, it's your partners, and it's so important to tell your partners this as well. And I've met so many people who have lost the person who's in the fire and rescue service, but then kind of been detached and lost by the fire family, if you know what I mean? So, for example, I met a lovely lady I was doing a collection at Sainsbury's store. This lovely lady comes in, puts a couple of quid in the bucket, said, "Oh, my late husband, 30 years, Lancashire Fire and Rescue." I said, "Oh, this is your charity too then?" And she went, "Oh, don't be daft, I'm not a firefighter, love." And I went, No, so you qualified through your husband's service? And she said, "Well, that beggar never told me that. And I said, no.
I think a lot of them don't know, mate. I think a lot of them don't know.
Yeah. And from that conversation then, in the foyer of Sainsbury's, she said, look, I can't get up my stairs anymore. I can't open the back door. The garden's all overgrown. And you're telling me I have to get some help. And I'm like, you certainly can get some help. So in that instance, we go and put a stair lift in the house. We fix the access issues in the back of the house. And she's got her accessibility around the house again. She's got her freedom around the house again. But she never knew. So how many years did that lovely lady battle on with,
and I think she's probably an example of an absolutely enormous subculture that are just totally unaware of that.
Yeah. Our beneficiary base is about 300,000 people. So it's, and we've got to raise about £10 million a year to keep them services going. And
£10 million? Is that how much it costs?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, because
that's expensive.
Our services are totally free to use. It's a free service. The only cost you might ever face is to get yourself to the centre. But if you were really struggling financially, we'd get you there anyway, so don't worry about that. It's a big organisation, but also...
It's massive. I didn't realise it was that big.
Yeah, so the person who works for the fire service, their partners, but also your dependents as well. And this is a big one, and I think it does get missed a little bit. So your kids or dependents are covered to the age of about further education. So if your kids are at university, they're still pretty dependent on the folks to, my niece is at university now, and she's always tapping the parents up for money stuff. She's still quite dependent on them.
Absolutely.
Like. So if your kids in later life need to use census to the age of about 20, 21-ish, it's a case-by-case scenario, but they could go to the census if they broke their leg or they've had a spinal injury or something like that, then they could come to the census and get some support. Obviously, if your kids are 6 years old, you're just not going to throw them on a train to Penrith and just say, see you later. They'll sort you. But there is stuff we can put in place at home as well. So another really good example was a firefighter in Cheshire. He's just been in Sharp magazine. If anyone wants to read that, it's a really good publication as well. But he's a case study there that his son has a condition where he's, autism. I'm not too sure. I can't remember off the top of my head, so I can't really say exactly what it was. But the advice for him and the family was to get an assistance dog to help him.
Oh, yeah.
But they're very expensive. They're about £6,000, and you can get them on. Yeah, they're really expensive to train and stuff like that. So the firefighters, I think it was like a £1,500 deposit to put down. Firefighters' wages and stuff. He just couldn't afford to cover that straight away. You can get the rest on like finance, I think. But one of the guys on the station, and this is where most of our referrals come from, is that the men and women who work alongside them say, well, if you contact the Firefighters charity, no, I haven't, no. So contact the Firefighters charity. We covered that deposit for that dog. So that dog then comes into the family and changes that family's life as a unit. The son, who's in high school, is massively supported. Has got his assistant dog that makes him better, makes him feel better. Mum, dad are going to work. They're happier. Their son's happier. And that completely dynamic change in the family comes from that support from the charity in terms of just helping getting that first step of that dog to the family. And we went on again because the dog likes us, like, the way that the kid is, they like a bit of like playtime in the garden. We actually turf the back garden for them as well, so they could actually play in the winter because it was turned into a bit of a mud pit. So it's really important to let people know. And we do like activity weeks as well. So if your kid's got ADHD, autism, any disabilities, then we close the centre from its normal day-to-day running for a week, and we just have a big party for the kids. But it's very good, and I know people go to this in terms of you can go on this break with your kids, and it's everyone else is there as in the fire service, so it's like that family, isn't it? So
yeah. It's the same thing I think about with the like British Firefighter Challenge and stuff like that. When you go to places like that and you meet all the other families from all over the UK and different fire services, it's just amazing. It's great to be around like-minded people like that. Yeah,
absolutely, and you make that support network. If you might, someone from Northumberland might meet someone from Somerset who's got a similar condition as their kid, and then they've got a support network there as well. So it's there for all the family, and I go to a lot of stations. I say, Christ, like you've pretty much got private healthcare in some respects, but for nothing.
Mate, I've had some big injuries, and I never reached out. There were a number of years ago now. I never even thought to reach out to the Firefighters charity. It was really, really silly.
Yeah.
I think because in ways, some of them were self-inflicted, lifting too much stupid weights and all that sort of stuff. But there's a couple of genuine injuries, but definitely affecting my professional life. And, hopefully I have definitely learned from those mistakes, but it never occurred to me at the time. And I feel quite, embarrassed saying that.
Do you know what? I mean, this is the biggest thing I sit around so many mess tables, I drink so many cups of tea, and I speak to so many brilliant people in the fire service. And I always find people I go, any questions? And they'll go, no, it sounds brilliant, that nice one, and all that kind of thing. And I leave. But I always get it. When I'm walking down the stairs of the station to the car park, or walking across the car park, someone will go, oh, have you got a sec?
Yeah, can I just actually go a few minutes, mate?
Yeah, and I'm like, okay. And they go, look, I've had this for ages, and it's really troubling me. I don't think it's worth me contacting the charity because there's someone else worse off than me. And I think this is the very nature of the fire service and firefighters in terms of you're so given and putting other people in front of you.
Yeah.
In terms of firefighters, that sometimes you don't look after yourself because you're worried that you're taking the place of somebody else. And I know people who have been to one of our 3 brilliant recovery centres, and that they go, oh, I felt like a bit like a fraud because someone had a stroke, getting help to have the lunch, and I'm sitting there with like 2 bad fingers, and I just felt like what am I doing here? That these people have got like real problems, but people are all coming in for different things, and I think it's so important that why struggle on? Like, if we need to get an agent referral in, we'll get them in. You're not taking it, and you'd be surprised how much spare capacity there is sometimes at the charity in terms of empty space that we want people to come and fill. So it's really important that why struggle on for years and years in terms of either your mental health or your physical injuries or welfare as well. So we've had a lot of people over the pandemic whose partners have lost their jobs, money's down in the house. We've helped with food vouchers and paying rent and stuff like that to keep a roof over people's heads. We've had some firefighters sleeping in the back of cars and vans and stuff. So it's just reach out. I don't know if it's the name of the charity, the Firefighters charity, and people think I don't need charity, but
it's strange, isn't it?
Just don't look at it like that. I'd say it's more. It's a support network. Yeah. And much like the fire and rescue service, where fires are actually not a big, still a big part of your job, don't get me wrong, but where the preventative work has been put in, to stop chip pan fires and all this kind of stuff, that's where the Firefighters charity get. We don't want to be the crisis point. We want to be when something's starting to bubble up under the surface, a problem, and that's where we want to be, so we can sort stuff quite quickly, so it doesn't become a big problem. So by just reaching out and using the services, why struggle on for 2 years? Because I meet so many people who have gone, I had a full on mental breakdown. I was off work for 6 months. I didn't contact you, and I'm like, we should have done. Because we could have really helped you. Yeah. And or to be honest, I've met people who've gone, it just never came into my head to call you, and that's really important. Where people who listen to this podcast today and stuff is even not for yourself. Just look out for others. And signpost them to the charity, because as long as you get permission off somebody, you can call the charity on their behalf. As long as they said, okay, I'm not in a good place to call the charity at the moment, but could you do it for me? That's fine too. So it's a big part, and it's probably one of the most frustrating things in terms of my job when we go to stations. And I think I can speak for my colleagues who do my job as well, because there's 10 of us around Britain, that it's like, oh God, I just met this lovely person. They've really struggled, and they haven't reached out to us, and now they're in a really bad place and stuff like that. We do take some really hard calls, and we're not trained for that. Like, we're not the practitioners, we're not the mental health team, but because we're like the face and we're the people who go to stations, we have to take some of the calls, and you're like, oh
you're on the coal face. You're out there on the front line.
Yeah, and you're just like, oh my God, just let me help you. Let you. But it's how much pain has that person gone through, physically or mentally, to get to that point to pick up the phone. But that is the biggest thing: picking up the phone or going on the website and just dropping an email to the charity. So it's a big part, and I wish people would always reach out if they need help, always.
So we've sort of spoken about a lot of the resources there, and you've said, people struggling to reach out. When they do reach out, a lot of people are unsure, or I think from my own experience, I've heard of Harkham House. You know, I've heard of some of the other locations, but I mean, how did Harkham House come about, and what other locations does the charity have to offer this support? Because Harkham's massive, right?
Yeah, it's a big old site. So I don't know the full history of it, but it's quite an old building. But it used to be an old holiday let business that the charity bought a few years ago. So it's down. For anyone who doesn't know, it's down in beautiful part of the world, down in Devon, and just acres and acres of land, and just a beautiful place. It's just, you know, little ponds and just nice walks through the countryside and all that. So all the centres are in really nice locations that are quite tranquil and good places to go. So up here in the northwest, we've got Jubilee House up in Penrith. What again is, you know, it's got a lovely little stream, a little waterfall running past the next side of it, and you know, you've got the Lake District on your doorstep, and then we've got Marine Court down on the south coast of England as well, just right off the coast. So you've got all that sea breeze, and so you got Jubilee House in Penrith, Marine Court on the south coast, and then you've got Harkham House down in Devon. So we've got 3 centres.
Wow.
And then we've also got our head office in Basingstoke as well. So they're the main 4 places we've got. And but we also do a lot of remote work as well. So certainly during the pandemic as well is being able to have it more digital, flexible. So I for example, in my area, I look after the Isle of Man, where it's quite difficult to get off the Isle of Man to go to the centres. So there's a lot more digital support. So online physio, or you can talk to somebody over the phone or on an iPad or something like that. So and Teams meetings and stuff like that. But it's not as good as being there in person, but for some people, if you're a busy retained firefighter, you've got the day job, you've got to fill your quota, your hours on station as well, but you haven't got time to get away. You can book maybe like a couple of sessions of physio online, where it's just as good. But the centres, they're like our jewels of the crown, if you like. They're just phenomenal places. And I mean, I go to Jubilee House, and it's just like you walk out there as a fundraiser, go. And you speak to people in there and how much they're being helped while they're in there, and you go, I'm just going to go and raise £1 million today, because that place is it's changing lives, and you know, it's in these places. So we all do kind of similar things. So, but Harkham House down in Devon is more mental health focused.
Okay.
So you could go there with your partner. So if your partner's struggling, let's say anxiety and stress, you know. The partner could get some help with that, and then you could go and get a little bit of help if you've got a bad knee, and you could support each other, and that's free for the couple as well. So you'll in normal times, when it's all back up and running, you'll go down on a Wednesday, go home on a Wednesday, but you'll get the Saturday and Sunday off in the middle, so you can actually have some time with your partner and stuff like that. So I know fire crew, firefighters have been to that with their partner and said, "Oh my God, how much of a boost that you know." Kids have gone to Nan and Grandad, and they've just gone away together, and not like that kind of weekend, but but just in terms of their mental health, the strength of the couple. Because I mean, I'm not in the fire service, but I can imagine as a couple in one shift working, or potentially 2 shift working, it must be a strain, and you know, to keep that family going and
mate, absolutely.
So,
I'm similar to you. I've got 3 kids, big age brackets. We've got dogs, horses. We both work. You know, we've got the fire service, the podcast. We've got some other stuff that we do, and and the problem is, well, we sort of said this earlier about the Navy. I love everything that I do. I really enjoy doing it, but I get that a lot of people really do need that unplug. You know, and I love holidays as much as the next person, but I'm really bad at planning time away with my family, or even with my partner. And I get that people do need that, and it's a big part of that work-life balance, that mental aspect. I can totally hear you when you say, you know, people do need that, even if they're not sure, even if it's just to check in on your mental health, because you need to be doing that on a regular basis.
Yeah, because I mean, I've met people who said their partner hasn't worked for a year. They've gone to Harkham House together, and within a couple of weeks of coming back from there, they've gone back to work, the partners. So, and that then helps that firefighter be like, she or he's not sitting at home, I'm worried about them, how are they, where's the mental state? It's like, they've gone to work, you know, they're in a good place. So that naturally makes you feel better at your work. So that's how it all domino effects, and why we look after partners.
Now, I was going to say this because I had a colleague at work asked me the other day that they had been to Harkham House, and was it Harkham House? Yeah, I think they've been to Harcombe House, and benefited from the services there. And they said that they enjoyed it so much I'll probably misquote this. When people have benefited from it and they give donations to the charity and stuff like that, because I know people have going away to gorgeous places like this, and you talk about underutilized capacity in those places. Are firefighters able to visit and give donations to the charity? As in, use, I don't know, a facility or a room or something like that and donate in return? Obviously not from free holidays.
Yeah,
just for the hell of
absolutely.
it.
So certainly at Harcombe and to a degree also at Jubilee House, we do holiday lets as well. So
I think that's what he was on about. He said he'd been there to seek some support with his mental health, and his partner had joined him for the second half of because I think he went down on his own. He had some support, and then his wife came down and joined him, and it became such a special place for them that they've been back and paid to sort of be there, just because it's a lovely place to be as well.
Yeah, so certainly with the way of the world and not really have much European travel or international travel, but we do holiday lets. So you can actually hire, so in Harcombe House we have loads of bungalows, detached bungalows. It's your own little unit. You're not on top of other people. It's not like a hotel as such.
Yeah.
And you can hire that, and it's actually cheaper than all the local private lets, if you like.
Is it only for emergency services, though? Is it only for the firefighters? I'm
not too sure. It's kind of a thing where it's not being massively used at the moment in terms of, we're quite surprised because there's a lot of staycation and all that kind of stuff going on. I
imagine it's one of those weird things because, like I say, if there's 10, whatever, I don't know, let's say there's 10 bungalows, 3 of them are being used to get support, but the charity is still paying to maintain the other 7.
Yeah.
And if people are like, look, I'll give money to the charity, but I'm going away to whatever, Devon this year anyway. If I could go and stay there and give the money to the charity, I'm sure they'd much prefer to do that. It'd be a much more sustainable way for the charity. Plus, like you say, the more connection, the more contact people have with the charity, the more they're aware of how good it is, the more they will lift it up, share its ability with people. And when you've been and benefited from it yourself, I know from my own speaking, I've worked with charities a lot, and it really does just give you a much stronger incentive to just talk about it and champion it. Yeah,
absolutely. And I just think that the feeling to know you're going to an amazing place. At certain times of the day, you can use the swimming pools there, because at all the centres we have hydro recovery swimming pools, jacuzzi. So you've got all the mod cons and all that kind of stuff there as well. And the set in beautiful parts of the world. So like Jubilee House, you've got the Lake District on your doorstep. So if you're into your walk and you need a base, then it's perfect for you. Yeah. But every penny of that cost to go there, it's dropping straight into the charity. And there's no. It's just an amazing way to support the charity, but also
I think people would do that. I think if people were more aware of that. Me and my wife went to the Lake District a couple of months ago, and I'd have rather given the money to. I mean, it's all about supporting local businesses, but it's like a double win. Yeah,
absolutely. Yeah, and it's a great place to go. The only problem is you can't take dogs, so that obviously because it's the clinical area of. A lot of people like taking their dogs and stuff like that. I mean, I've got my little Cocker Spaniel looking at me now while I'm doing this, but it's just difficult because it's a clinical area in terms of it.
So it should be. The main priority is to be able to support the people that need it at the end of the day.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, but it's a great way to support the charity. That it's and have a lovely time with the family, and it's great that people can still use the centres. And everything's okay. They don't really need the support of the charity at that particular time, but still being quite close to the charity. And then also, I'd always say to people, if you can and you're passing, hop into the centres because they'll show you around. The staff at the centres are amazing people, phenomenal people. Like that, I can't speak highly enough of them. And they're very proud to show what they do and getting connected to the charity in that way is a great way to. You can't help not be in awe of what they do in the centres there because it's life changing stuff for people. I know firefighters who say, without the charity, I wouldn't be here anymore, and they actually take leave to go and help, do odd jobs, paint walls and stuff at the centres because they everything to the charity in terms of them still being here in terms of their mental health.
That's the biggest acknowledgement right there, isn't it? So we spoke about this sort of massive price tag that it takes to keep the place running. So it must have been difficult to keep the sort of fundraising and stuff going during the pandemic. But in the 7 years you've been involved, what are sort of the real standout events that you've managed to be part of or that have happened within the Firefighters charity or on behalf of the charity? What are some of the things that really stand out to you?
Oh, God, where would you start? It's just, I'm quite privileged in terms of coming from forces background. But I love working at the fire service because I get the dark sense of humour that firefighters tend to have, and the dry wit and the Mickey taking and all that. So I absolutely love all that. But my kind of strap line is, I've been a volunteer fundraiser before. So if you're doing events, let me know. If I can, I'll come and do it with you. I can't always because the wife shouts at me and stuff like that. But
constantly off all over the UK.
You know, I've climbed I went with Morecambe Fire Station, climbed Scarfield Pike in full fire kit and BA. It was horrendously horrible.
That'd be awesome.
Yeah, it was horrible, but it was just like, oh God, I honestly, like, in terms of the events I've worked on, in terms of, we did the rugby. Yeah. So we broke the world record again. We went for 29 hours, 15 minutes. So that was the Firefighters charity versus little Scottish Little Soldiers. So the link in there. I've done loads of big sports dinners and stuff like that and raised tons of money. And God, there's just so many. Well, me personally, one of the London Marathon for the charity was
That's it. Leading by example. When you see project leads and stuff like that actually getting involved and going in front of themselves.
Yeah. It gets harder because as you get more involved and stuff like that, and you get like processes and structures and stuff like that, and it's hard to do everything. But I like getting involved. I like asking people to do stuff, but not stuff I wouldn't be prepared to do myself. Yeah. And you know, I really enjoyed that. I've made some amazing friends in the fire service over these years, and friends for life, to be honest. And it's taken me to some great places. But in terms of the volunteers, oh God, like just this weekend alone, right? So this weekend I've had firefighters in Merseyside who walked every fire station in 3 days in Merseyside in full fire kit and BA. Ooh. That's something like, I can't remember, around something like 150 miles they walked or something mental like that.
Jesus.
And like I just spoke to one of the guys this morning and said their feet were actually bleeding while they were doing it yesterday. And you just like, that's determination of an unreal level. Like today we just got a group of firefighters who were walking coast to coast in full fire kit and BA, and you're just like, you're just blown over by.
I suppose it's a really exciting time now as well, because people that have wanted to do stuff but haven't been able to get out and about, I bet they're coming thick and fast now. People that have seen how much the emergency services have kept going during the pandemic and really wanting to double down now and show their thanks and show their appreciation. It must be a great time to be part of the charity. Yeah,
absolutely. And I'd say during the pandemic, we in terms of fundraising, we'd normally bring about £1.8 million in. I think we're on about 800,000, so about £1 million, give or take a few quid, over the last financial year. That's obviously we're very well known for doing our car washes, but that hit us on the first pandemic, so that's about $250,000 just wiped out there, just gone because the stations are closed. So, but we've had so many people in the fire service who just really gone, well, that's not going to stop us. So, you know, running marathons around drill yards, 999 times up and down the drill tower, closed door events that are still, funnily enough, raising more than we've ever done. I suppose
the gift of social media now is people can go live, people can really, you can get, it's a distance socially and virtually distant society, yet you can also let people in. You can I've done live stuff on stations and stuff like that, and you can let people into places that they've never had a chance to go before, and they can really feel like they're part of it, and they can see it happening in front of them.
Yeah, it's a total different way of fundraising now, and it's very much virtual. So last year in terms of fundraising, it's crashed. Like as a fundraiser, everything we've ever done is gone. So we've literally got to reinvent fundraising during a pandemic. That's where we were at. But we created a brilliant campaign for the charity called the Fire Family Challenge, where we asked kids of firefighters or parents in the fire service. They were doing stuff. They were running up laps up and down the street. We had firefighters running around the station for 24 hours. We had people knitting, people doing all sorts of stuff. But it massively helped us. And what we were saying, like, even if you raise £100, that is an amazing result for the charity.
Gotcha.
and we just started a new campaign called Brew with the Crew, where
yes, I saw it. You had Sabrina Hatton-Cohen, wasn't it? Did she come on?
Yeah. So we did a live webinar the other day with her. That was fantastic, and it's someone said to me, "Well, what event can we do?" And well, the team was asked, "What event could we do?" And we thought, well, the fire service is really good at drinking tea, so maybe let's do something along the tea, tea and toast at 11 o'clock and all that kind of stuff. So,
do you know, one of the things I didn't realise you did until we had Nathan Ash. We did an episode with him recently, and cakes, overtime cakes. I did it the other day. I could send you a screenshot. I went in because I'm like, a proper blooming fitness freak and all that sort of stuff. I don't buy any of this cakes rubbish. Do you know what I mean? I used to be the unpopular dude that'd be bringing in fruit and stuff like that, and just getting the blank stares on parade.
The crackers of fruit, yeah.
But now I just make a donation. I send a screenshot to a few members of the crew. So they'll be like, "Oh, all right, yeah, okay, thank you, well done."
Yeah.
With no cakes then.
Yeah.
I'm like, dude, it's going to a bigger cause. Come on, brother. But I think that was massive. That must have raised some money.
Yeah. Do you know what? I can't remember the last figure I saw, but it was thousands of pounds, and that started from one service going, everyone's a bit fed up of cake on overtime.
Yeah.
So we'd just say, we did this poster, and then it's one that then spread around all the other services going, that's a good idea, yeah, we'll do that. Yeah. And from such a simple idea, it's raised us thousands of pounds, and that's kind of where Brew with the Crew comes in a little bit. It's so simple that it's inclusive to everybody, because in the charity world, you can be a bit like, run a marathon, go to Kilimanjaro, but that's not everyone's cup of tea, so to speak. Pardon the pun, there's my time. Yeah. And it's what we found with Brew with the Crew. It's really good for businesses to get involved and show their support. So you mentioned before about like coming out of this pandemic and the public's solid support for the blue light services and stuff like that. That people really do care about, like, what the fire service has done.
They just need to know how to do it. Give them a way to engage, give them a way to contribute that's realistic. Like you say to people, join me in Penrith for a 5 miler this Saturday. They're like, I'm busy. I'm living my life. But I can give me a way to connect. And like I say, that we've got so many ways to do that now that it's just leveling up. Do you have that sort of personal development side of the charity where things have had to change as technology's changed and stuff like that? Do they support sort of members of the team in trying to get a bit more familiar with social media, Zoom, how to do these newfangled things in the different generation than once it first started?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, the world's always changing and it's always evolving. But certainly as a team, like, now we've got new problems to face. Like I can't remember the last time I had coins in my pocket.
No,
so
I can't.
Where we might have been saying, oh, let's do a collection in, Liverpool City, Birmingham City Centre or something like that. Like where that would have been very, very fruitful and loads of donations, but people now go, oh, I've got no money. Mm-hmm. And so now we've got to find a digital format, and this is the next stage for not just our charity in terms of the fact, but the charity sector in general, that we need to find the software, the digital mouse to then take digital donations. Mm-hmm. So like, we've got a couple of card reading machines. So I went to quite a big corporate up all the week in Lancashire, where walk around the office, their staff are with me, go and say, come on, Brew with the Crew, Firefighters charity, make a donation. And people go, nah, no money. Yeah. And I go, so I've got a card machine, and they go, oh, all right then. So they've got to give a donation, because it's either the card or the phone donation, stuff like that. So
that's it.
We've got to evolve with technology and look at the way the world's moving as well, in terms of people don't have cash anymore. It's just the way it is. And I think in terms of, there might be a longer issue, not an issue, but like the way we did, like for example, at Christmas we did a virtual Santa Dash, and it was like, basically, traditionally we might have gone, right, here's 10 different locations across Britain, go to Newcastle, Birmingham, Leeds, and take part in our 10K running series. But now people really like the flexibility of, over this weekend, can you run 5K, pick your route, go wherever you want. Yeah, good effort. And
use Strava or something like that. Just take a screenshot of it or send it in or whatever. Yeah. People like that. You see the whole Peloton thing kicking off because people like it. They can do it in their own time. They can still sort of feel competitive. They can still feel part of something, yet they can fit it around their lives.
Yes, yeah. And like yourself, big family man and stuff like that. And the kids just like, it's totally different. When I was a kid, it was just like, I would just stay at the house kind of thing and just look after yourself on telly. But now it's like the kids have football there. They've got this club there. They've got a party there. And to then, like, it's difficult to balance everything. And I think having the flexibility, people have really enjoyed that. I think it's still great. Like London Marathon, like when I did it, is an amazing event. And that's worth working for and going for. And the charity art places, if anyone did, like, after the marathon, we'll be looking for new runners and stuff. But it's that's fantastic. The big flagship days are amazing, and we could never take that away because that's a special. They're special days.
And there will always be a place for them. But like you say, the time of having one every weekend is necessarily probably moved. You know, people just haven't got that flexibility. But no, I think it's super important to have them because people do love connection. We all still love getting together. And again, I echo back to the Firefighters, British Firefighter Challenges, stuff like that. Seeing everybody come together once a year is really important because, you know, outside of the pandemic, people love that. It's we get our oxytocin, our connection with people. That's a really important thing to do.
Yeah, the British Firefighter Games, the guys there, John and the team, they're absolutely amazing stuff to do. And we're hoping to work with it. Well, we will be definitely because I'm looking after the partnership. But it's to grow that as well and just showcase everyone how good the fire service is.
Are you coming up this year?
Yeah, hopefully so. Yeah, down to the college, and then
awesome.
I'm looking after the event and all. Yeah, so it's.
Well, I'm hosting it this year.
Oh yeah, happy days. I'll see that.
I'll be in the middle of the arena, listening to the sound of my own voice now, cheering on all the, introducing all of the athletes, supporting people, acknowledging all of the partners and the sponsors, and I'll no doubt drag you kicking and screaming into the middle of the arena at some point, and we can have a chat about the charity for everybody's benefit.
Yeah, that'd be amazing. To be fair, I went to one of your past podcasts. I went up to Birchwood to see Ryan Cook for the Cheshire.
Oh, it's lovely. Yeah.
And he laid down the course for me. I thought, I'll have a go.
You've got to come in, Bob. I'll bring you some fire kit. I'm sure you've got some.
Yeah. So, no, I haven't got any, but that's an excuse to try and get out of stuff when it's a bit mental. I go, I haven't got any stuff, and they go, I'll get you some. But
don't worry about that, brother. We'll find you some kit. You'll be the guy. Where am I? I'm not huge, but I'm fairly big. I'm about 19 stone, 6'5". So I can swamp you in my kit.
Yeah, that's fine. 6'2", me. And
it'll be all right. We're about the same.
Yeah.
So we've spoken about so many aspects of the charity there, mate. I wanted to bring it back in because I always like to close with some personal points. You know, you've had your career in the Navy, you've gone into the sort of private sector and done a few bits and bobs, and now you've come back into charity and giving and, you know, looking how to connect with people, looking how to better yourself, learning about social media, diversifying, speaking publicly at corporate events. I wanted to ask you about your own sort of personal development. So is there any sort of, because I'm a complete personal development nerd, has there ever been any sort of books or documentaries or films or resources that you've used to sort of help you get over the fear of speaking in front of people or just developing yourself?
I wouldn't say I've really tapped into any books or anything like that. I've kind of listened to my dad and my granddad, and when he was with me, and they've always been the go-to people in terms of what do you reckon on this? And I don't know if it's a trust thing, but it's all the parental thing where they're always looking out for you. But I've always seen them as very much my role models. But then I'd say it's always been a bit of trial and error. But I've always found that in life is just speak to people how you'd like to be spoken to. Do lead by example. Don't ask people to do stuff you wouldn't be prepared to do yourself. And I've just always found that I'm very approachable, confident in myself, that I'll be okay. If you know what I mean. It's hard to describe really, but once I'm good at something, I know I'm quite good at it. I'm very confident, and I know I'm good at my job. If that makes sense. So
I think there's a lot to be said for sitting down with different generations and listening and learning. I've learned this. I've always loved the art of conversation. I've always loved learning from people. I always say I'm ready to be that eternal student always. And the podcast has really allowed me to do that. But sitting down with your elders, because you may disagree with some of the things they did in their time, but they have survived up until now, and they have some great stories, some great lessons learned. And if you don't take an active interest in your own personal history, then I think it was Churchill that said it. If you don't pay attention to your history, if you don't learn from your history, you're doomed to repeat it. Sorry. So sitting down with old generations, if you can have the patience and if you can be sincerely interested enough to sit there and actively listen to somebody, we have mentors all around us. I think people look for things in a book that sometimes can be right in front of them in life if they just reach out and speak to people. Yeah,
absolutely. And I think also in terms of life, I speak to family, but also in a professional, like in terms of the fundraising world, like our fundraising team is phenomenal. Like, there's 10 of us from all areas of Britain with all different backgrounds and different charities we might have worked for in the past, but there's nothing they don't know.
Yeah.
And if you're not sure about yourself, I can literally just call up one of the team and go, got this going on, what do you reckon? And they'll go, well, have you thought about this? And you go, no, I didn't think about that.
Well, look, mate, that's why I'm getting in contact with you, because I've got this, I don't know if one of the members of the team has mentioned it yet. I'm going for a Guinness World Record. I'm going to do a 24-hour vehicle pull. The record currently sits at 33 kilometers, and I want to be pulling an emergency services vehicle in my fire kit, and obviously do it for the Firefighters charity. You guys are the experience. You've got the know-how. Do you know what I mean? I'm waiting for the word back from Guinness World Record, and then getting that vehicle moving, both in the sense of the genuine vehicle, and also just trying to get enough sort of support for it and enough help for the Firefighters charity and make it as beneficial as possible. So we're definitely going to have some conversations off the podcast and see if we can get this moving.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'd say just not yourself, but if anyone's like, listening to this thinking, God, I've always fancied doing this, or what I always say when I go to fire stations is, if you've got a passion for something, if that's cycling, running, fishing, band, anything, you can make a fundraiser out of it.
Absolutely.
And certainly, like what you're quite blessed with in terms of the fire service, like our fundraiser team are phenomenal, and they'll back you all the way. They'll support you. They'll get all the materials you need. They'll give advice on how to use social media and create a Just Giving page. So we are there to support you in terms of everything you do. And do you know what? If it raises £100, £1,000, £10, do you know what? It's a couple of quid closer to achieving our goal as a charity to give first-class, state-of-the-art facilities for the fire service family. Just backtrack a little bit, but it's also there for people who work exclusive MOD site firefighters.
Yeah.
If you work on all families, so it's such a big community that just playing a little part in that is a big way to support the charity, really.
Yeah. We hear some of these massive numbers thrown around, but that's the collective of 1,000 small steps. Do you know what I mean? Every little bit, everybody can do their bit. We can all get that win of knowing that you've made a difference.
Yeah. And the perfect example is Brew the Crew. So we're not asking people to raise like £1,000 on Brew the Crew. We're just asking people, can you raise 30, 40 quid for a group of friends, have a cup of tea? And just within 2.5 weeks, we've raised £10,000 and people having cups of tea.
Wow.
So it doesn't have to be the big spectacular event. It can just be 40, 50 quid with your friends.
Yeah.
But everyone teaming up and making that happen together has a big consequence in terms of the support we can give to like the fire and rescue service family. It's
100%.
so important. Yeah.
Awesome. Al, thank you so much for coming on the podcast today, mate. I've loved learning more about the Firefighters charity. It's always been there in the back of my mind, and also when I've been part of charity events in the past, knowing that it's going somewhere good, but I've never learned enough about it, and I feel really like I've benefited from our conversation today. So thank you for taking time away from the family and from being out there spreading the message. I really appreciate your time today.
No, it's been an absolute privilege to jump on board. If just to pass to everyone, if anyone wants to make donations or wants to know more about the charity, just jump onto the website and it's all there for you.
Beautiful. So all of that will be down in the notes below, all of the links, everything for people to get involved. And I look forward to speaking with you soon, mate.
Yeah, brilliant. Thanks very much.
Take care of yourself, brother. Bye-bye.
Take care. Bye.
Hey Hey folks, just jumping back in to say thanks again for jumping onto the Firefighters podcast today. If you are an admirer of the emergency services, if you yourself are a firefighter, be sure to jump over to our YouTube, Instagram channels, check out some of your favorite episodes, some of your favorite sound bites, and learn a little bit more about all of the guests. Jump over to the website, and there's so many little rabbit holes to go down for your own personal development as well. Be sure to stay up to date with all of our latest guests by jumping over to the email link, check the notes in the podcast brief, and make sure as well for yourself, if you want to be into the chance to win yourself a pair of Hikes boots, along with our partner Hikes, we are giving away a brand new pair. Absolutely no tricks to this one at all, no funny business, no small print, 100% no paying for your postage or anything like that. You can get yourself a hand on elite footwear from Hikes, from the Firefighters podcast. Jump over, find the post, tag a friend, make sure you find your favorite episode, share it to your page, and that's all you need to do to be in for a chance to win every single month running right up to the end of this year. We've had 3 winners already, so for your chance to be in it, you've got to get over there, you've got to check it out. And all that's left to say is thank you so much for coming over and checking out the podcast once again. We are on such a hot streak right now. We've got some amazing guests coming up, we've got some more world record holders, we've got some more lifesavers and some more heroes of our community. So until next time, stay happy, stay healthy, stay hungry, and I will see you real soon right here on the Firefighters podcast.